to SiGMA Roadshow, and my name is Andrew Klebanow. I will be moderating a panel discussion for the next 30 minutes entitled Changing the Channels of Distribution, an Introduction to Online Gaming. With me today, I have three panelists. Richard Schwartz is president of Rush Street Interactive, a firm he co-founded in 2012. In his role, he oversees division strategy, product development, and operations for Rush Street Interactive, as well as the company's TV production company, Rush Street Productions. Rush Street Interactive develops, licenses, and operates real money online sportsbooks and casinos in regulated markets across the Americas. I also have with me Kresimir Spajic. Spajic has 15 years experience in the online gaming industry. Most recently, he was Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Online Gaming and Sports Betting for Hard Rock International, where he was responsible for leading the vision, strategy, and operational execution behind the brand's investment across interactive gaming platforms. Also with me is Loretta Tuell. Loretta provides, she's the managing principal at Tuell Law. She provides legal and legislative services, strategic planning, and lobbying advice on a myriad of governmental, regulatory, and institutional matters impacting native gaming. Areas of focus include American Indian law, government law and policy in gaming, and she provides advice on tribal sovereignty issues and international indigenous rights, tribal homelands, and resource development. Panelists, welcome. Today we're going to be discussing an emerging trend in the gaming industry, online gaming. As we all know, the pandemic continues to force Indian casino operators to devise new strategies to meet the needs of their customers. Creating new channels of distribution is essential if the industry is to serve players who no longer feel comfortable visiting casinos. A thorough understanding of online gaming, the legal hurdles that must be overcome, and the opportunities and threats that it presents are essential before deciding on an appropriate course of action. So let's talk about channels of distribution. In business school, they've taught us that channels of distribution refer to how a business gets their products to their customers. Walmart is an excellent example. Walmart has built thousands of supercenters in suburban areas around the country. In more rural areas, they grew by building Walmarts in modestly populated areas and going into urban areas. They built neighborhood stores. They have expanded tremendously their online product offerings. You can go online and buy anything, have it shipped to you, or you can go to your Walmart and have it curbside pickup. Casinos operate differently. We depend on customers to get to our properties. We would employ bus services, line runs, charters to bring people to the customers to our casinos. Often we will use charter services to bring casino customers from regional markets to our properties. And of course, we encourage people to get in their cars and visit by offering them copious amounts of free play and complimentary services in order for them to visit us. The pandemic is forcing us to change how we approach the whole distribution process. And online gaming is now becoming an emerging trend. So I want to start by posing a question to Richard. Richard, there are a number of products and technologies that get lumped into the category of online gaming, and this also includes social gaming. Can you define the gambling? Can you define online gambling and the kinds of products that are currently offered in jurisdictions such as New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and most recently, Michigan?
Sure. Yeah. So, gambling is often defined as sort of having three elements to it, right? You have to have something for consideration, element of chance, and you have to have a prize. Even players are involved with actually putting something at risk, money, and winning a prize. That would sort of differentiate gambling from, for example, a social gaming product, which usually removes the element of winning a prize from the experience. Therefore, you are maybe putting some consideration to buy virtual free credits in a social product, but you're not getting the element of prize that sort of changes the experience. Same thing with free products where you have you bet on the prediction of what's going to happen in events and it's free to enter. Those again are gambling because there's no consideration involved. But actual gambling products that are most significant and most popular, the two that come out are online casino. Really is the largest usually. Casinos consist of two subcategories, which is really table games, which is blackjack, roulette, baccarat, and then the other category, slots. Within those two areas, typically online slots are the dominant category within the terms of market size. And then the second big category, going back to the top level tiers, would be sports betting, which of course is betting on sports. Now there are typically the sports in the U.S. are the regulated, the major sports leagues, as well as some smaller and other types of sports you might think about. But horse racing is usually separated out, separate legal framework to allow online horse racing in the U.S., or I know in some European markets, those two are sort of considered, sports and horse racing are considered together. That's not necessarily. And then when you talk about other categories, you have things such as poker, has been off to a relatively slow start in the U.S. regulated markets, but perhaps with the Wire Act, there'll be more popularity as states can pool liquidity between different populations of people in different states. So you have poker, then you have bingo, you have esports, and so you have a wide range of other categories that I think over time are going to start to become more popular as well in the U.S.
So looking at online gaming products, when one visits an online gaming studio, what are the product offerings in terms of slot machines? Does one see the same titles that you get when you walk in through a casino?
So you do see some of the same titles, but there's a wider array of online suppliers that also include some companies that don't make land-based slot machines for the casinos. So you have a mix. You do have a 20 plus game suppliers that have been approved in the US markets, and typically an operator their library of games from those suppliers into the platform that the operator is using. So you can offer your players a maximum number of games available. Players like a lot of variety, they like a lot of choice. And they like a lot of new updates of games. So I think one a lot of companies have deployed is to make sure there's a variety of content available for their players so they get a full range. And some slot games are mechanical based, very slow, 3 reels, maybe higher stakes, smaller, less action, but more traditional. And then there's other games that are much more volatile and have a chance to win big jackpots and might have more pay lines. So within the slot category, there's dozens of different types of game types, and different vendors have different products that fill those different niches.
And these slot products, they are GLI approved or approved by some regulatory authority at the state level?
They are. Yeah, you have to do 2 levels of testing. One is the games themselves are tested by the labs to make sure the random number generator is accurate and reliable and fair. And then, of course, that's not enough. You have to also integrate and test the integration between the platform that's going to be used those games and the games to make sure that the communication between the platform and the game servers are also accurate. So there's 2 levels of testing, and those are always done by the gaming. Each regulator has their own decision on how they want to do it, whether they have their own in-house lab, in which cases some markets they do the cases they'll ask for a third-party lab to do the testing for them and get a certificate validating that it's been done successfully.
Richard, one more question I have regarding the product. When I was in Asia over the last 3 years, a very popular product was called Live Dealer Online, primarily based out of the Philippines, but also in Cambodia and other Southeast Asian jurisdictions, where a customer can get onto their device, actually visit a real casino or casino studio, and select a live dealer and then play table games, primarily baccarat, but they also offer other games, and play in a live dealer in an online format. Are those types of products available here in the United States? And if so, which jurisdictions?
Sure. Those products are available in all jurisdictions that allow online casino, though live in two of them, which is New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I think the Wire Act interpretation is limited the ability to put it in the smaller states because there's been a desire not to cross state lines. You had to put a studio in each state, and so a smaller state like West Virginia possibly wasn't as eager. Some of the vendors weren't as eager to build a big studio there, given the small size of the population of that state. But I think in that regard, but it does work extremely well. You know, at Rush Interactive, our company, our philosophy always is focusing on player trust, and players, when they see the results with their own eyes through a live stream, as you may have seen back in Philippines or elsewhere, that you earn a degree of trust that you believe that random number generator behind the scenes doing outcomes that may not be what you believe they should be, but you're actually seeing the cards coming out of the shoe of the card dealer. So I think this product is proven to be a category that's very impactful, very positive from the transparency and regulation standpoint, and the players are going to see more of that proliferate around the U.S. markets as the industry matures.
Great. I want to direct the question to Kresimir. Recently, both Indian casinos and commercial operators in Michigan joined New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and West Virginia in offering online gaming to their residents. How successful has online gaming been in these jurisdictions?
Sure. Thank you, Andrew, for the questions. I think we need to divide it into two periods, right? First, the launch of online gaming in the United States is happened in 2013 when 2 states regulated online gambling, first Delaware, followed by New Jersey. And we have been up to a slow start, right? From 2013 to almost 2019, we haven't added another state. We just had 2 states, and then in 2019, Pennsylvania went live. 2020, we got West Virginia, and 2021, we got Michigan finally. So if you look at the growth of the market, it was pretty slow. The year-on-year growth until 2019 was around 30% year on year. And then in 2019, there was explosion of the online casino gambling. And the main reason is introduction of sports betting. And why introduction of sports betting is important from online casino gambling? It's 2 reasons. First, currently when it comes to sports betting, we have 26 states that regulated online sports betting or are about to regulate online sports betting in the United States, which is and we have only 5 states which regulated online casino. We are hoping that with the regulation of sports betting, the regulators are gonna start regulating also online casino. And online casino has been last year actually bigger in terms of the revenues than sports betting. Online casino generated around $1.7 billion. Against sports, we generated around $1.5 billion in terms of revenue, but majority of that revenue is distributed between 2 states. So 2 states, New Jersey and Pennsylvania, make around 93.4% of total online casino, while West Virginia and Delaware are very small market when it comes to this. Michigan is off to a very good start. Michigan made in January $30 million almost in gross gaming revenue from online casino. And if you look at this on a trailing 12 months, you can expect that in the first year, Michigan could reach around 350 to 400 million of dollars in revenues. Also, when it comes to the competition, you can see by New Jersey, there is many more competitors in online casino than it's in sports betting. Sports betting is much more complex product to run and to operate. So you have 26 competitors in New Jersey in online casino, while you only have, I think, 18 or 19 when it comes to the sports betting. Also, when it comes to the online casino, it tends to be more diversified in terms of the market share. In majority of the global markets, when it comes to the sports betting, the majority of the revenue is concentrated between top 5, 6 players. While when it comes to casino, this is at least top 10 or 12 players.
I saw the initial numbers from Michigan, and they were dramatic, considering that the product has only been available for maybe 12 days, 10 days. But mature markets like New Jersey are more mature. Do you see a plateauing of online gaming revenue and just becomes a fairly steady part of the casino's total gaming revenue mix? Or do you see market share moving it continues to move from bricks and mortar to online?
Yeah, I mean, we can look at a European example, and it's very hard to compare Europe and United States because European land-based casino market is very, very different. It's mostly based on VLTs and basically slot parlors, while United States has around 1,000 casinos, of which many of them are resorts type of the casinos. Also, the casino and entertainment culture is much more engraved in United States. And we are already seeing right now that the value of the players, both in terms of their monthly, yearly, and lifetime value when it comes to the casino is significantly higher. And when it comes to the casino player, we're already seeing two trends, right? Market is developing a couple of ways. First, there is a significant amount of advertising and promotions, especially at the beginning when the market launches. And then you have two ways how to add and convert players. One is so-called a free-to-play or daily fantasy sports route, where you are trying to convert sports players to casino or daily fantasy players to casino. And the second one is so-called conversion between a land-based database to online player. And different players have different types of strategy. DraftKings and FanDuel are using their conversion from sports and daily fantasy sports, like a big brand like BetMGM, Rush Street Interactive, Hard Rock, and some others are mainly relying on their land-based. When it comes to the market potential in Europe, the share of online gaming is between, I would say, 20 to 50% in different jurisdictions. If you look at the UK, it's closer to 50. If you look at some jurisdictions, it's between 20 and 30. Overall, it's around 40%. And I think that the long term, we could look at the share of online gambling would make around 30% of the total gambling revenues in United States. The key question here is the maturity. Every market has its maturity process. It usually takes 5 years for the market to mature, which means have a high growth levels until when it's relatively stabilized and growth becomes in a single digit market. If you have seen the latest DraftKings Investor Day presentation, they have estimated if all 50 states regulate the US market in terms of online gambling, the total market size will be 40 to 43 billion. I personally think that this is a bit more optimistic side. If you look at somebody like Morgan Stanley, who did their analysis, if all 50 states legalize, it will be between 25 and 30 billion dollars. To give this in comparison with the current market, last year, commercial and tribal casinos make below $60 billion in total gaming revenue. Of course, it was a distressed year because of the COVID, but the year before it was around 70 billion. You know, so I believe that ultimately, if you compare 30 to 40 billion of online casino gambling revenue with 70, 80 of retail or land-based revenue, you're coming to numbers which are between 30 and 40%. And if you compare an example last year, New Jersey revenue, where the total revenue was 2.9 billion, of which 1.4 billion came from online sports and casino, which is almost 50%. So definitely the future is bright from the online casino if we manage to overcome the biggest hurdle, which is basically getting states to legislate and regulate online casino.
Which brings me to Loretta. When clients in Indian casinos ask me what the process is, I look at compact negotiations, I look at the various jurisdictions, and it looks like a hornet's nest of issues. So, what are the legal hurdles that tribes must overcome in order to introduce online gaming in their jurisdictions?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me on the panel. I would say number one is that the law can be used as a sword and a shield. And in Indian country, you will have those tribes that desire to grow in the various mediums out there. And you'll have those who have a backlash to want to protect what they have, their land-based, their brick and mortar, the investment that they've done all these years. So the law could be used in either way, but I would say ultimately it's time and money. Whatever you want to do with tribes, it always is those two things go together. because it's not as it appears to go outside the confines of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. When you do get some amazing results. I would say, and talking about Michigan right now, there were a lot of hurdles before the Michigan tribes how to go forward on online gaming. One of them is, what is the source of authority? Is it from the federal law? Right now, we don't have an overarching scheme on online gaming. Do we have one federal law, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act? On the state side, what's their source of authority? Is it through, finally changing their state laws? So for Michigan, in order for those tribes to game, they had to look at the source of authority. For them, it's going to be the state law. And in doing that, they've gone outside the confines of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act and turned it into a commercial venture. It's not the same type of governmental regulatory scheme as IGRA, but it is something that still has the same kind of framework around it. Because ultimately what we're going to see with Michigan is there are going to be some legal issues that develop. And they're going to develop over time. One of them is the main issue is the National Indian Gaming Commission oversees gaming on Indian lands. And although this is a commercial operation in Michigan, the siting of the server, most likely, because I'm not sure yet, is on Indian lands. And when you have it on Indian lands, because of the preemption of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, it still has authority over the activities on the lands. That is a huge issue in the future as they go through and try to implement some of the deals put together. For example, payments to the state of taxation under this regime, because they still have to deal with the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, which says that there should be no taxation of tribal revenues from gaming. There is going to be a schism. How that's rectified in the future, we're going to see. Because the siting of the server is commercial through the state, but on Indian lands, IGRA still prevails. Those questions are going to be ripe in the future. Other issues, just generally, for tribes in Michigan, they are using geofencing. So you deal with the usual laws that you would in any commercial casino, the Wire Act and the Unlawful Internet Gaming Act. But because within the Unlawful Internet Gaming Act, there is a safe harbor for tribes, I don't believe that's going to be an issue. And I think the geofencing is going to get the Wire Act. So from my perspective, Indian gaming is so important to the tribes. It's in 29 states. And as Kresimir was just saying, is that, the last 2019, we made $34 billion. And over the COVID time, they've lost about 10 billion. And some of the analysts have thought that it'll take 2 more years for us to get back up to the 34 billion. So it's critical that tribes decide, what type of new offerings can they add that enhance their brick and mortar that they've invested so much into. Sports betting from the tribes perspective is an opportunity, but it's also, like I said, the shield, whether they keep it to just sports betting and not go to a full online casino depends on a lot of factors. And that's going to be tribe by tribe.
So if tribes in a particular jurisdiction, well, let's take Oklahoma, since it's one of the largest Indian gaming jurisdictions in the United States. If collectively they decided they wanted to offer some form of online gaming product offering, I assume that would require a reopening of compact negotiations with the governor. Is that correct?
So it gets very technical. There are some tribes that have worked in the commercial field and are directly under state law. So you have to go to state law. Does Oklahoma state law allow for online gaming? That's sort of question number one at either regime. If the tribes want to do it under the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act and cite them on the reservation, then they will need to have compliance with IGR, which requires a tribal state compact to deal with class 3 gaming. And online gaming would be a full casino offering. I'm assuming for most people, if you're going to dip in, you dip in all the way. And so for that case, there will be a need to have a tribal state compact that authorizes the use. There's ways to get around IGRA in dealing with tribal gaming, but when you're going to talk about Oklahoma in particular and trying to do intertribal activity, it will be front and center, the compliance. And the main actor in this is going to be the National Indian Gaming Commission. Through their bulletins, through their law opinions, through their declination letters of management agreements, they will set the confines in this area. Unfortunately, there's been a quiet atmosphere since 2012, 2011, when there were a series of congressional hearings that talked about, where tribes stand on this, what would the legal framework look like for tribes to engage in online gaming. dissipated in the interest. Why that is, I'm not quite sure. But in the meantime, sports betting has been seen as the leverage to open the expansion of gaming. In California, the debate on online gaming went on around 2010, 2009. It was in the news, in the legislature. It went dead. And now the new activity is sports betting. And with it is the whip with the online potential. And for tribes, it's about assessing that and whether they open up, whether that's good for their economies, good for their land investments and their brick and mortar. So it's a issue where you really need a lot of advice as you go forward, because in the end, it could be time and money. And for those who want to invest it and those operators who want to come in, it's important to realize each state is different. Each tribe within those states are different. In Michigan, there's a series of 12 agreements with the tribes. And from there, then you can look at to whether this is feasible for you to make a profit.
Excellent, excellent. We have time for maybe one or two more questions I could pose. So, and if this is any one of the panelists, a tribe may not have a lot of resources to assemble a full online gaming studio and live dealers in a live dealer online format. The server would be located on the reservation. Where does the game have to take place? And anyone can answer on this one. If I want to open up a live dealer online operation, would that table game have to be on my reservation, or could it be in another jurisdiction? Richard, let me ask from you.
Sure. So, well, I guess the answer is it depends. Unfortunately, it's one size fits all answer. But as we just heard, every state is different, every compact is different, every interpretation is different. But what I think, some states, I think on-premise gaming, we use online gaming technology for premise. We are being approached by quite a few land-based casinos. Again, our company comes from a land-based casino background, so we really understand the land-based industry. Are coming to us saying, can we do on-premise gaming within the four corners of our property, not only the property, but even not the casino property, but even within other tribal lands within the state? And the answer is yes, you can, if the servers and all are based on the physical property without having to really get much secondary opinions, because you're doing it on the tribal lands. Of course, you have to go through the little bit of the process that Loretta described. The other thing that we do a lot of is we do social gaming, which is free to play. We offer tribes a land-based tribes, tribal casinos, a social casino, their brand, their database, and we run it for them. So it's a way to kind of build their brand, build their database. Gambling becomes legalized. That's something that's very attractive. I know we have a great partnership with Louisiana where we've done exactly that, which is trying to help build a business. And those, again, doesn't have to go through the process described because it's allowed. When it comes time to deciding on a real money gambling product, where the customer is, when they're playing the product, consuming the product, that's where the debate is legally of whether needs to have authorization and when it occurs on plans. And that's something that depends, again, on a state-by-state basis.
Excellent. Well, panelists, I want to thank you very much for your participation in this discussion. We are approaching our time limit. Again, thank you very much. And to our listeners, I encourage you to reach out to our panelists if you'd like to pursue an online gaming solution at your casino. Thank you very much.